It might seem crazy, but we started as a relationship advice podcast. No, really. In our News from the Warfront series, we respond to messages from listeners and social media posts about relationship conflicts in gaming groups. If your gaming group is going through a rough patch, we can help. Whether you play trading card games, board games, RPGs, or poker, our advice can resolve conflicts in your friend group so you can get back to having fun. Leave a comment or send an email to mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. It's time for
News from the Warfront.
Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this evening by my brother Benjamin. We got a comment on our TikTok channel this week about a conflict at a local game store. So, let's get to our embedded journalist. Let's get to us.
Travis, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you on the front. Yeah, so we got a comment on our TikTok channel. They said, "We have a social butterfly at our LGS. She has a cadre of guys who are her fan club. In our conversations, we started calling her Cult Priestess."
Right.
I know she's probably not, but that's just what it seems like. I imagine an anime of a girl with long, straight black hair,
and then all the
tall and thin,
guys
surrounded by all the guys. Most of them play CEDH decks exclusively versus bracket 3 or lower decks, and they lie about their power level. How can I tell them ew politely? I asked a few follow-up questions, and they said their preference seems to be grabbing new people when one of their group rotates. When one of the cultists leaves the group, they invite a newbie. They invite a rando, and it says that they focus on randoms.
Yeah.
And then just absolutely crushing them. He says, "I'm not sure it's conscious, but it's definitely a pattern. They're nice until someone sits down." That is a red flag for us.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Not sure if they mean nice as in polite and then they get mean with the person. Like, "Ooh, why don't you read your cards?" and stuff like that.
Right.
Or who plays that? Or if they just mean nice until they sit down and then they play mean, like they're playing stacks and CEDH and stuff like that. But yeah.
We have a couple points here. The first thing we want to explain, and these are things that you, poster, can explain to the group. We want to talk about the core issue with pub stomping in general. And this is beyond just it feels bad to be stomped. It goes far beyond that. Benjamin's going to go in a little more detail about what it does to the hobby in general. Benjamin, go ahead.
So I see on social media a lot people defending pub stomping. Not most people. Most people understand that it's not really the way to go. But there are people out there who seem to genuinely not understand why you don't do this. So it's bad for a variety of reasons, but the main one is that it kills the hobby over the long term. It prevents the growth of the game. So if I'm a newbie and I've been talked into buying Magic, maybe by a friend of mine or whatever, and that's all I've played with them, or I've played with my siblings or whatever, and I show up to a store, it's my first chance. I've heard about, maybe I saw an ad, whatever, right? Local gaming store.
I watched a video on My Mythical Meta's YouTube channel
saying go to an LGS and make friends.
Yeah.
So I walk in, I've got a deck, it's a 2, maybe it's a pre-con, slightly upgraded or not, right? And I'm looking for a game, and I'm obviously looking around, and a group of people will say, hey, come on over. Come play with us. Hey, what you playing?
We've got a space in our pod. Come on over.
Yeah. And what you playing? Oh, I just bought the pre-con over there. Oh, perfect. Our stuff, it's all pretty low power level. You're good. And then they sit down, they shuffle up, they play, and you combo off on turn 2, and they're dead, or you destroy all their lands, or you keep returning all their stuff to their hand or whatever, and they don't get to play that game.
The poster even mentions having 2 players dead by infect at turn 4.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that happens here. One is that player, if they believed you that you were playing low power level, they feel like there's a huge gap because they bought a pre-con that's actually low power level. And they feel like, wait, that's low power level? How am I ever going to get from here to there? Because I obviously can't afford that, right? I can't even get there because I bought the pre-con and it's so far away from what is low power level.
It makes it seem like the barrier to entry is bigger than it actually is.
Right. They don't know necessarily that there's lots of people playing at that 2 or 3 level. The second thing is, if they don't believe you, if they realize that you were lying to them, it makes them think that the Magic community is rude, lying, just out to pub stomp, right? Which there's a small part of the community that is, but that's ultimately not what the community is about. But if that's what I think it is, I don't feel welcome in the community. I feel like a prey for predators, and then I want to fight or fly, right? I don't want to sit down and with a bunch of lions and say, okay, who's going to get to eat me today, right? Most people don't like playing games where they know they're going to lose and don't feel like they can improve, right? When I'm playing chess with my son, I don't make the best moves. I play with a handicap. Maybe I'll take some pawns away or whatever. With newbies, you need to, we have entire episodes about this, about how to introduce people to games or whatever. But you certainly, in Magic, where people don't start even, right? Everyone brings their own deck. It's even worse than with other games, right? Where you just cannot bring your best deck to play with a newbie. It does not help grow the game at all. So what's going to end up happening to the enfranchised players who pub stomp is, if their way is normal for their LGS, if they happen to be one of the bigger voices at that LGS, they're going to keep new players from going to that LGS. They're going to either find other stores, or if there are no other stores around, they're just going to find other hobbies. And as that Magic community shrinks at that store is going to have to choose other hobbies to take that place. Warhammer, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, and you're going to see your Magic Nights are slowly going to fade to get replaced by other card games. So it's not in Magic's best interest. It's not in the interest of that group to drive Magic players away from the hobby.
Or the shop owner's interest.
Right. And so the shop owners, right? And I've seen it happen where shops start to cater to other games more than Magic. And it's not just the Knights start going away, but also the selection. Maybe they don't carry as many commander decks and you don't get to buy one. Or they don't carry the side products, or there's fewer sleeve designs available.
Fewer sleeves, fewer play mats, fewer tables available for playing.
Yeah, they reserve all these tables for Lorcana, and they're like, y'all go sit in the back corner.
All the tables have been combined together, and there's terrain all over them for the Warhammer gamers.
I mean, one of my favorite LGSs, I noticed, this wasn't necessarily because of a toxic community. It was just because people were aging out and moving off to college or graduating and moving back home or whatever it was. But the Magic community got smaller and they stopped doing games at all. Like, not completely. They had a small room in the back for card games, but they were selling toys and board games and other things because that's where their money came from. So you have to make sure that new people are coming in to spend money to replace the people that leave every so often. And if that's not happening because newbies' experiences are bad, then you're going to find that slowly you are out of a space to play. It's not how you want to do it. So sometimes it won't drive away the new player. There are new players who are like, well, if it's too hard now, I'm going to get better. And I'm going to
like you, Benjamin.
Yeah, like me. Yeah, if I got pub stomped, I'd be like, how can I do that? And I'd start researching it or whatever. But it's still bad because it's a non-game. One side essentially plays solitaire against the other. The Stomper wasn't challenged. The newbie didn't grow. The Stomper might have had fun. Usually the newbie doesn't in that situation. Essentially, pub stomping ruins the fun of everyone but the Stomper. And it is okay to have a lopsided game, but everyone should know what they're getting into and agree to it beforehand. If you had a discussion about power level and one side said, hey, we only got 4s and 5s, these are highly tuned decks. And the other side said, I want to try it. I just bought the pre-con. I know I'm going to lose, but I want to play and I'm willing to experience that. That's fine. That's fine. But it's not okay to go in expecting a game and it turn into a non-game. And so that's where I think the difference is. Let the person choose with complete information whether or not they want to be part of that, right? Don't say, well, some people like it, and then force it on everyone. Just because
we've talked for a long time about how precious our leisure time is.
Yes.
And no one wants to feel like their leisure time has been wasted.
Yeah.
And lopsided games, like you just said, are only fun if everyone has knowledge and agrees to it beforehand. Otherwise, you feel swindled, scammed, bamboozled. And Derek mentions this a lot. Derek, another member of our pod, will often say, I spent my whole day doing this. Yeah. Like, our free time is so limited. And it feels so bad to have that time used in a way that's that we didn't agree to.
Absolutely.
And people find themselves lured in, and the pressures of society and the pressures of politeness, some people will suffer through that in order to be polite, but they shouldn't have to. So all the things that we just said, we want to give our poster some advice. Our poster was not the pub stomper. Our poster sees these other pub stompers in his group.
Right.
So now our next step is to give our poster, our question asker, some advice. First, you should assume goodwill. You should always assume, because this is how good societies work.
Yeah.
We assume the best in others. So you should assume that the cult priestess and her boys mean well, and that they just like CEDH. That is how they get fun out of the game. They love a high-powered, fast, combo-oriented game. If you have the opportunity, explain to them that a balanced game is ultimately more interesting. I don't think I would have a lot of fun watching LeBron James repeatedly dunk on 8th graders.
Right? No.
Like, that would be fun for about a minute.
Yeah.
And then
I might watch a short. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I might watch a 30-second short of grown-ups dunking on kids. But, I would not, if it were a real experience, I would not want to sit for an hour and a half in the gym, in the bleachers, watching that happen over and over and over again.
No, that would be terrible.
Right? That's really unsatisfying. If I imagine for LeBron James it would be unsatisfying, but even if he's having fun, I care more about the fun of everyone.
Yeah.
Fun is not a zero-sum game. There's not a limited amount to be had. Okay, everyone can have more fun. And if you can, you have the opportunity to explain to the group that a balanced game is more fun for everyone. You get to see if you're actually a good player if you only play against other highly tuned decks. If you're playing against low-tuned decks, or untuned decks, then what did your deck or your knowledge even actually prove?
Right, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be easy for a dragster to beat a Nissan Sentra in a drag race. Right? But
yeah, but not an Ultima.
Not the Ultima.
No.
So you have that appeal that you can go on. Appeal to their pride or their sense of goodwill or whatever. Right. You can explain the dangers that this behavior poses to the game. Like Benjamin just mentioned, if new players are not coming into a game, then a game will die because its players will get old and die, and then the game is over. That's it. Explain what might happen to the shop. Explain what Benjamin mentioned, that long term, the shop loses money and your events may not fire. All the things he was just talking about. And saying, if you want this to be our place to play Magic, you have to make it a good environment for people to play Magic.
One more thing that you might be able to tell them or approach your store owner about is I have seen store owners ask toxic players not to come back because they wanted to keep that welcoming environment because they know where they get money from. So if these cultists and her henchmen are not whales at this shop, it's entirely possible that that's on the horizon as well. And you can mention to them, hey, look, this isn't the environment we want. So if you can't be more accommodating to new players, or at least just not give them a bad experience, you don't have to play with them if that's not the case. But at least be honest with them about the types of decks you're playing and try to make this a good experience for them. And if you're not willing to do that and you're not willing to stay away from them, then I'm going to have to talk to the shop owner about that. Because that's something that you should do as well. Is, if an honest, direct, polite conversation about this behavior doesn't work, and you have to stay polite and you have to stay even toned, don't go off on them, that won't work. But the next thing I think would be to just have a brief conversation with the shop owner and see if they are aware even.
You can ask the shop owner, hey, how much money does that group spend? and you should understand that the shop owner is going to be on the side of where the money comes from.
Yeah.
If the shop owner's oh yeah, they're whales, they buy a booster box of every set or whatever, then you might need to seek an alternative. And here is an alternative.
Yes.
If you don't want to address the group at all, then here's another choice. You should be the one inviting new players to play in your group. If you have seen these new players become prey to the cult priestess and you don't want them to have a bad experience playing, then you should be the one to ask them. you should say, hey, do you have a group to play with? Come play with us. Invite them in. Or if the other group has already done the inviting, you can like friendly call over and be like, man, you better be ready. They're very competitive. They play 4s and 5s.
Yeah, and if they don't know what that means, explain the bracket system to them real quick.
Explain the bracket system to them too.
Yeah.
But like this group probably knows they have a reputation for being competitive.
Yeah. So
I don't think they would be surprised or offended and say it like praise. Call over and be like, that's the high rollers table.
Yeah.
They're the best players in the shop. So if you're ready to play against that, by all means, go for it.
Right. But giving them if you're in the middle of a game and you see it, so you can't invite them over, absolutely be the one that says, hey, they play tough stuff. Like they're too high powered for us. So be ready when you go. And
then you can let that new player, you can let that person looking for the group, you can let them decide for themselves if that's the game that they want to play. Remember, just like Benjamin said about your tone, do not badmouth the cultists. Sorry, we're calling them cultists. But do not insult, do not accuse, do not gossip. Again, phrase it like praise. They're really great players.
Yeah.
You might need a little practice before you play with them or something like that. But be honest about the styles of decks they play.
Yeah. Explain why it may, if they honestly look new, you can explain why it may or may not be fun to play with that solid deck. Say, hey, those are quick games. They're over by turn 2, 3, 4. If your deck can't win that fast, then it's likely to lose, or they play a very controlling game, whatever it is, and explain what that experience is like. And again, let them decide and don't say it like it's a bad thing. CEDH has its place. There's a lot of people enjoy that. Eventually, this newer player may enjoy that. So it's, in fact, getting stomped, they may be like, if they're a Johnny, for example, and they see a combo deck go off on turn 3, that might be the coolest thing they've ever seen in a card game. Because a lot of games don't have that the way that Magic does. But you can be the one with the good communication if the cultists aren't willing to do it themselves, right? I would start by talking to the cultists and saying, this behavior that we've seen does sometimes seem like it might harm newer players' experiences. Maybe you can help us make this a better environment for new players, either by being honest about the power levels of your deck or by making sure that y'all have lower powered decks to play with new players, however it is. But if that doesn't work, or even if it does work, also you invite them to play, right? Yeah. The onus is on every part of the community to drown out the toxic players, not by being more toxic, accusatory, mean, exclusionary, but by being so healthy that the toxic players don't feel like they're representative of the community. The only reason these cultists are able to pick off stragglers and get them into their little pod to prey on them is because no one else in that moment has invited those stragglers to play. They're stragglers, right? Meaning they've been left out of all the games. And that group is doing at least one thing right, which is inviting people who'd have no one else to play with them. So you can be the one, or your friends can be the one, right? Get a bunch of y'all together to be on the lookout for those new people and catch them first.
Yeah. So. And really quickly, I do want to mention that there are commander variants for 5 and 6 players. We have a very steady group of 4 whenever we play, but occasionally there's a 5th player. In order to keep that time low, because I swear the difference between 4 players and 5 is like another hour and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it really is an exponential growth. The variant we do for 5 players is called Pentagram, where you treat it like it's a circle, and the only 2 people you have to kill to win are your 2 opposite points on the stars. The 2 people next to you are your allies. So you don't play until there's 1 survivor. Instead, I win if those 2 people are gone.
Yeah. You play until 2 people sitting next to each other have died.
Yeah. And then that's it. The game is over after that. Yeah. The variant that we do for 6 players is called Emperor, where it's 3 against 3. The person sitting in the middle of each side is the Emperor, and the 2 players on their left and right are their generals. And you play with a rule called the Sphere of Influence, which means that you can only affect the players that are 1 spot away from you. So your generals can only affect the Emperor and their enemy general.
Mm-hmm. They cannot affect the enemy Emperor or general on the far side.
Until the enemy general has been defeated. Then they can go in and start attacking the Emperor. What's really fun about this is that the Emperor is usually going to get 4 or 5 turns of no interaction at all.
Yeah.
To just
Build up,
ramp,
build up,
build up their board, build up their armies and their powerful creatures or whatever.
Set up their
And both
combo.
emperors are doing this until the generals start falling on either side.
Yeah.
Again, we do these variants because it keeps the games from lasting 3-4 hours. So use those as options. Again, be as praising as you can of the cultists. Use that as your reason to talk about how strong they are, and use that as your in to warn new players against a bad experience. What might be a bad experience. And then be the person inviting new players into your group. And if that makes your group a group of 5 or a group of 6, experiment with these variants. It can be a really fun way to play. I especially like Pentagram also because the people on your left and right are allies.
Yeah, you got to protect
you share
them.
a common enemy, and so you can team up against people. And I've had people like leap to my protection with certain spells and stuff and interaction.
Because
so it's a lot of fun.
If the person next to you dies, that person across from you is going to win. You're like, no, you can't path his creature. And it makes
pretty fun.
Yeah.
Really neat interactions there.
So be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly. Be the change. Be the welcoming person in your shop if that's the kind of behavior that you want to see at your shop.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that our advice helped. If you've got a situation at your shop or in your friend group or something that you notice on social media and you just want to hear our unsolicited advice, send it to us.
And then it'll be solicited advice.
And it will be solicited at that point. All right. Thank you guys so much. You can email us directly at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. If you're interested in joining our Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. Thank you guys for listening, and Benjamin, thank you for being my excellent brother and a great friend.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.